Valentine Ildyra is coming for your heart, and you know she'll make your account a work of art. So don't be afraid of spending that Visiore blue, because we both know that you can't resist a good waifu. Alright, Valentine Ildyra, aka Ildyra Sweetheart, is here this week in War of the Visions. It's very exciting, and it's a fire unit, so I mean, you know Mysidia is going to be pulling, except I might not be, and we'll talk about that. But first, we're going to talk about the pros and cons, and if you want to skip around the video, you can do so using the chapter feature in the video bar. Otherwise, let's hit those pros. It's going to be interesting if a lot of people pull for Valentine Ildyra because I think that she is quite a good unit. The timing's just kind of rough with the amount of water that's in the meta right now, and the fire account is just not really ready for her in terms of VC support. But when we look at pros, there's a lot of good things here. So very high attack, agility, and luck stats, and she is an evasion unit. She has many high potency skills on all of her jobs. Her TMR is fantastic, so +1 move and jump for 3 turns, but you also get 30% single target resist. She's pretty much, she might be worth pulling for the TMR, and then maybe you would just be slow bailing her after that point. I don't know, or maybe she's going to be added to that starter ticket in the shop, and you can just pick her up later. I know that's something that I'm considering doing. She's also our first unit to get attack type specific evasion. So she gets plus 25% evasion specifically to slash and missile attacks, which is pretty interesting because we do have a lot of both of those skills. However, we do have a 100% hit missile attacks, so that's not really going to help there. But with the slash attacks, that's definitely a very relevant thing or bonus to have. She also can inflict status effects with some pretty high chances to succeed depending on the number of times that she's been hit, and that's where the evasion is really important. She also has a single target in peril, which is reliant on the opponent being immobilized, and then she's got some pretty good chaining options, including a 3-hit AoE chaining, which is really good because if it hits 2 people, if it hits 3 people, and they all have a 2 chain on them from the 3-hit attack, then no matter what your fire units are hitting after that or whatever your slashers are hitting after that, they are all going to get chaining bonuses on their damage, and that is pretty sweet. Now, she does have great slash resist penetration if she's evading because it's dependent on how many times she's been hit. Once she's been hit twice, it's gone, but if she doesn't get hit twice, it's there forever unless it gets dispelled. She also has some slash resist penetration on the new ninja blade that we're going to be getting this week in the event, so you can farm for that. And if you want some other types of damage to get around slash resist in general, then she also has her Ranger sub, which has barrage and sharpshoot, so you know she can be missile chaining with Satya, with Luartha, and also Winter Mashery. She does have some cons. I mean, I don't want to say that there's a water meta as a con, but it is something that players have to take into account because if you pull her, it might be difficult to use her right now, but I don't think that's a good enough reason not to pull her. It's just, if you're the type of player that will feel discouraged by pulling a unit and not being able to get the most out of it right away, then this might be that unit and you might need to avoid her. But if we can put that aside, because I think that some units have longevity, and I think that she certainly will grow into her role, specifically on fire accounts as they add more VCs, because right now she is lacking supporting fire VCs. It means if you want to make her super evasive, you're going to have to sacrifice the VC slots for the rest of your fire team. Now, if you're not running her in a mono fire team, that's okay. Maybe you're running her with other evasion units, but really all the evasion teams do get to use some pretty sweet mono element VCs, and she really doesn't get to take advantage of that, and that is definitely a con for me. Her best buff is also tied to evasion, which means 100% hit attacks are definitely going to be a problem for her. Also, the fact that dispels just take place now, even if you miss, is kind of a debuff for her as well. Her limited defense penetration is something to keep in mind. Now, some people are going to really hit back on me on this one, and the reason I'm saying this is because you're definitely taking her evasion passive that gives her 12 evasion and then 25 slash and missile specific evasion, and then you have to pick. Are you going to do the move +1 and then 3 less hate for being targeted, or are you going to take the accuracy plus defense penetration? And they're both really good passives, but the fact that you have to pick like that and you can't get defense penetration penetration anywhere else, that's kind of a big deal. It means that she does have decent defense penetration when you equip that passive, but you lose the mobility. You have to supplement that from gear, and yes, you can do that with Trust Stones, but it's still a bigger problem than other units where you just have the defense penetration ready and locked and loaded to go. If we look at Ildyra's main kit, it's really interesting. She's got high potencies with a bunch of status effects, imperils, all this stuff. Like, it's amazing, but it's all very weird for the most part. Ranges, there's a one-hit move that's like only directly in front of you. There's some like diagonal moves that my arms just went like that are kind of strange. It's a weird ranged kit, and that does affect the way that she plays compared to other units. And then finally, this one's kind of lame to have to put on a pros and cons list, but if you look at like literally every unit, like every evasion unit, let alone like all the other units that have this now, there's no courage or re-raise on this kit. That is something you have to keep in mind. It does affect your guild battle viability, especially when you can't count on her evasion as much, depending on how you're building her, because there isn't a lot of fire support on her kit. In this next section, we're going to compare Ildyra to both Locke and Violet, and she looks to be stronger than both of them due to her slash resist penetration, but also because of her high attack stat and all of her high potencies. Violet doesn't have a lot of high potencies. She does have crit damage and critical rate, and Locke does also have some high potencies, but not nearly as much as Ildyra does. However, both Locke and Violet are going to be more evasive than Ildyra is, and that's purely because they have more luck and they have master ability evasion on their kits. It's easier to make both of them evasive compared to Valentine Ildyra. And while Valentine Ildyra does have a really nice access to slash resist penetration, Locke and Violet have access to defense breaks and slash resist breaks, and they have easier setups for defense penetration. So I think that does even the odds a little bit, but Valentine Ildyra should be hitting harder than both of them. That's going to be it for this video, so let's talk the verdict here. What do I think about Valentine Ildyra, aka Ildyra Sweetheart? I think she's actually a pretty good unit, but I think the fact that she is a standard pool unit in global means that a lot of players should probably skip her. And this goes back to my video that I did the other day about limited units versus non-limited units, and people were pointing out that at the end of the day, that the limited units tend to be the meta units or longer term units than the standard pool. That is not always the case. But in this case, I think it's pretty safe to grab her later or get her on a ticket or something, or just wait, unless you're really, really a big fan. Remember what I said, if you're a huge fan of the unit, boom, you get them, okay? Or maybe you think that you really can make her work for your account and it's going to be a power up. In that case, you can go for her. But at the end of the day, I think most accounts won't miss her and that you can skip her. But I do think that she's pretty interesting. Like the evasion matched with some pretty high potencies. Like she has the ability to be a serious damage dealer with the high mobility. And that's where it's tricky, that to get to that 4 move, and she has the innate 2 jump, you have to have that move passive or her TMR that she uses, but then, you know, you have all of a sudden mobility that you have, but you have to use more TP skills, right? Because you want to use your slash resist penetration TP skill, you want to use your big evasion skill that's also a team buff, and that makes it a little bit trickier. So it's hard to see a world where she has access to mobility, but also defense penetration at the ready. So something to consider. But I'd like to know what you think, if you're going to be pulling for her, or if you think that I missed some information, because you can share that down in the comments down below for other people to see, and hopefully you can help them with their decision before Wednesday comes and this all these awesome updates slash this cool banner comes out. As for myself, I think that I am going to skip her for now, but I'm hoping that she gets added to that ticket that's in the shop where you can buy a unit and get their, I think their 99 shard, or like their shards to get to 99. And if she does get added to that, then I might have to break into the Mysidia vault, get some of my nation's coin and spend it on my favorite Valentine unit. Otherwise, we're going to take off. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel, and otherwise, we'll see you all in the next video.